Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Coaching Club Cafe Live. I am Anita DeFrancesco, aka Anita D. And today my theme is Discover Joyous Love. And today what we're going to be talking about is shame and toxic shame, and what this does to ourselves and the people around us. So shame is one of those topics that people really don't understand. Shame and hiding is what I call it. It's a hiding from the self. People don't really understand that shame is an emotion, and a lot of us experience shame from time to time in our lives, and it passes. But then others can experience internalized shame, toxic shame, shame that stays with you forever and controls your agency, your human being. What is shame? I'm going to put my hands over my face. It is a mask. It is hiding. It is something you do not want to face. It is an escape of the self. So what all that means is that while we're running from the self, we can't really run too far, because we have to live in this world. We have to go to our jobs. We have to get on with our lives. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things here on what shame is and what is toxic shame. First of all, shame is an emotion that affects the physical being. And how does it affect your physical self? It affects you in ways of maybe panic attacks, anxiety. If you're a person that experiences anxiety or panic attacks, or feels alone a lot, or worthless, these can be symptoms of internalized shame, something that you may have experienced in your childhood. So shame really stems from your experiences in your growth, in your childhood. What was going on in the home when you were growing up? Now, there's another thing. Our parents have a transference that shame is binding within our humanness. So this shame is transferred, which actually you may not have had a bad experience in your childhood, but whatever your parents are carrying, say your mom is depressed, but she doesn't show it, but you sense that on some level, and that becomes transferred into your psyche, into your humanness, so we can internalize what others are feeling. So people that are living with shame actually are disruptive to those around them in a psychological, emotional, physical sense. So, and people don't realize it when someone is really down. Shameful people that live in shame, they tend to want to dismiss others or project onto others. They want to dismiss and project others the pain that they are feeling. Not only the pain that they are feeling, but the life they cannot face. So if you're not able to open up and face your own life, well, naturally, misery wants company, so we tend to get what we call a denial personality. And this personality, we tend to carry into bringing this onto others and affecting those, our most important people around us, such as our children, such as our beloveds. And again, good morning. I am Anita DeFrancesco here with you, and we are Coaching Club Cafe Live. I'm the founder of Tantra Wisdom. I am Anita D. My theme for this Coaching Club Cafe Live is Discover Joyous Love. Today my topic is shame and toxic shame. Toxic shame, it ruins lives. It's an emotion, again, of the physical and the mind. So let me give you some notes here, what I have on this. When shame becomes toxic, it can not only ruin your life, but again, those around you. And it's not something, an emotion that people realize that they have. Like, they know what sadness is, they know what anger is. Shame is fueled by hidden anger in the body. Anger is the culprit. And anger, when people are angry and they displace anger on others, it's really shame. But they are hiding and binding their shame through the rage of anger. So anger is what we will address in the counseling sessions. Let me get back to some of my notes here. Everyone experiences shame at one time or another in their lives. Strong feelings of shame can stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. So everything is on a nervous system. These are patterns in your body. Shame brings out addiction. It brings out narcissism. If we live with too much internalized shame over years, toxic shame, it can affect and change the chemistry of the body. Actually, people can become what I call quasi-bipolar or sociopathic. And they may not even have those stronger mental illnesses, but with a lot of internalized toxic shame that sits in the subconscious for years to come, and it's not dealt with. And then on some level, there's an explosion that happens, and the person goes to a psychiatrist, it's automatically, you're going to be treated for a mental illness. Now, shame is not really a mental illness. It's more of a psychological dysfunction that can be dealt with spiritually, emotionally. It can be dealt with in so many different ways, through talking therapies, through yogic type therapies, applying yourself in life. Through shame comes again from not being accepted. Maybe you were bullied as a child, or maybe you were the different one in the class. And the kids, for example, when I was growing up, I had shame around me. Just in my household, from what I grew up with, there was a lot of abuse that went on. And I had to go to school and pretend like nothing happened. So that created a root of shame. Good morning, Randolph. Good morning, Randolph. And that created a root of shame within me. And then when I went to school, the kids thought I was a little different, and they thought that, they saw something that maybe I didn't see. It was the mask. It was the hidden mask that we wear like this. Escaping from your own reality, escaping from your own life, escaping from who you are. I couldn't accept myself. But as time went on, again, you learn to find the help out there, or you learn to go in and save yourself. And that's what I did. And I can show you how to do that. But getting back here, when we feel exposed and want to hide or react with rage while feeling profoundly alienated from others and good parts of ourselves, this is shame. And it leads to what we call a schizoid personality type, where you become alone. Not a loner. Loners are okay. But if you're a loner where you don't want to be in crowds, or you don't want to be near people, and it's painful to do that because the shame has overtaken you at such a level in your subconscious that the only way you can get out is to hide. We may not be able to think or talk clearly when we're consumed with self-loathing, which is made worse because we're unable to be ridding of ourselves. So the whole thing behind shame is we want to escape. And a lot of people turn to drugs for that. A lot of people turn to alcohol for that. So these are things you can avoid if you understand the emotion of shame. It is an emotion. Internalized shame hangs around and alters our self-image. It's shame that has become toxic. So shame is the culprit of most of all of these emotional issues, and it's sexual based. I'm not saying it has anything to do with sex or anything to do with any type of that. It's just a sexual energy based emotion that comes from that place of understanding and accepting who you are. So I want to get into someone by the name of Peter Fonagy talked about the sense of the self, and that shame is not only an emotional reaction, it is a signal of a negative evaluation of the self. So you judge yourself. Are you that type? Sit for a moment. Do you judge yourself? Do you not like yourself? What is it that you don't like about yourself? So you want to think back, shuffle back into your life. What are the things in your life that made you alienate from who you are? Alienate from the self. Good morning. You're listening to Coaching Club Live. I am Anita DeFrancesco, Anita D, founder of Tantra Wisdom, and broadcasting to you live this morning here from Philadelphia. And wishing everyone happy holiday season. And my theme is Discover Joyous Love. Today I'm talking about shame and toxic shame. And I believe shame to be the culprit of most drug addictions, most alcohol addictions, most anger problems, sexual problems. Because what shame does is it affects your desires. It affects your wanting to go deeper with your partner. It comes up, but it's all rooted there. So it affects your entire being. And I think that shame is one of the most debilitating emotions of all. It's shame and hiding. So getting back to, it forces us to disconnect from our network, our agency. It reflects the stripping of the agency of the self. This is a serious thing. How can you function in the world when you separate from your agency? When you go to a job? How can you move ahead with shame if you feel worthless? If you feel self-loathing? People dance around those negative behaviors. They dance around that. Good morning, Randolph. How are you? The impact of shame is a profound relation to guilt. So shame and guilt, they have a relationship. People that usually have a lot of guilt about things, they might have done things wrong or things that weren't socially acceptable or acceptable by their family or socially acceptable by society, and they carry a guilt, or they carry some guilt about anything in life that happened. And this turns into the subconscious shame. An expression that Dr. Peter Fonagy says is shame. The person who carries the toxic shame is the unnamed elephant in a room. The unnamed elephant. And just visualize that for a moment. Remember that play? It was called The Elephant Man, that movie? I think it has something to do. I'm going to have to take that movie out and watch it. Here's a saying that people with shame would, a phrase that they may use: I never knew shame was a feeling or part of a struggle. Shame is highly correlated with depression, addictions, eating disorders, self-harm, trauma, and suicide. And it goes hand in hand with narcissism. So people that are living in a narcissistic world, personality type, which they're very ego, mind-blowing people. They're very strong. They are disconnected from their self. They're rooted. Their narcissism is a fight for the shame. And a lot of people don't want to face their shame. Not because it's painful, but because it's actually like a killing. You're buried and you have to unbury yourself. So you find ways in the ego to get out of that by narcissism or guilt or sociopathic, elements, not necessarily full on, narcissism or full on sociopathic or full on mental illness, but a lot of these elements surrounding your psychological dysfunction. Interesting, huh? Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Randolph. Thank you for tuning in. We still have some more to go here. I'm Anita DeFrancesco. Anita D, you're listening to Coaching Club Cafe Live, and I'm also the founder of Tantra Wisdom. And today, this whole week, I'm going to be featured here on Coaching Club Cafe Live, and $2.99 a minute for your phone call to me this week so that I can guide you and direct you of how to unlift that hidden anger. Underneath there's that shame and there's that sadness. That sadness is your creativeness. That sadness is your success. That sadness is your finding the perfect mate in life. That sadness is you being blissful, living the joy that you want to live. Oh, and on that moment, let's just breathe right now. So taking a breath in, and I just want you to feel who you are. And this is one of the things that I can do with you on the Coaching Club Cafe Live hotline when you call me. is to instruct you, first of all, how to be in touch with yourself. Because if we're not in touch with the self, then how can we understand the physical body? And the physical body is what we address first before the mind. The body changes before the mind changes. And then it's all connected. And once you're feeling more wholesome and more together is when you can start to accept yourself more. So let's getting back to our shame topic here. Let's see what else I have for you this morning. So again, narcissism is the defense against shame. And there's a lot of narcissism going on out in our world today. People that are always politically correct, or they are always right and they can't be wrong. Shameful people feel wrong. They feel wrong forever. Everything they do is wrong. Even though they might be the most intelligent person in the world, their shame makes them wrong. But the narcissism is right. And that is the defense against shame. So narcissism is a false personality type. It's an ego. And it's a killing ego, something that destroys people, that dismisses people. And your mates, your friends, your children, the world. It's very criticizing personality. But sometimes the way into the narcissistic personality is through the heart. But it's very difficult to get to that. That person has to want to be helped. So shame, again, is a normal human emotion. A feeling of wrong. I'm bad. Nobody likes me, and I'm in this hole. You're buried. Again, placing your hands. This is shame. The mask, the hiding, and it's all sexual based. Sexual based because as that is the beginning of your innocence, your birth, and the beginning, and of course, growing up, parents and religion and sex is bad, and those things are part of your self-expression, are part of your creativeness. And when we're told that our sexuality is a bad thing, or we can naturally become hiding in other areas of our intellect, and this can affect you on many levels. So we're in a world now where it's time to open up and really start to face you, who you are. Emotional support to overcome shame. This is the key. Self-defeating. Now, there was a book I read way back, and I met John Bradshaw, Healing the Shame That Binds You. And I met him at a convention in LA, and he gave me his book. He signed it, and he was giving them out that day at this convention. And it was one of the most helpful books I ever read, and I still have it. I'm going to look it up here in my box, my storage boxes, Randolph. Anyway, from LA back to Philly. And I'll tell you, this book is it's still on Amazon. So I would say to get this book. This book has helped me to deal with my shame and understand. This was the first book I read that helped me to understand, knowing that it was an emotion, which I never thought it was. Shame, again, is a distorted view of yourself. Looking in the mirror. And looking in the mirror, folks. What do you see? If you have a distorted view of yourself, and you're alienated, you're isolated, and you're just about you, this is a personality type that can lead to anxiety. So notice if you get panic attacks and anxiety and things like that, and depression for no real reason. Another thing that I read in his book, a friend of mine actually told me that, who has a lot of shame, that it's a feeling of being a fraud, of lying your entire life about things because you want to be something better, but you are considered bad and wrong because of the shame that is binding you. A feeling of being fraud, a sense of worthlessness, invisible or disposable, like an NHI, like my book, the Donna Gentili story, where a girl who was an NHI who was murdered. But there's a lot of shame around that whole topic of her story and her life, and feeling and disposable and being a disposable. So what happens to getting back to what happens to your body in shame is that it is a fight, flight, freeze reaction. which turns into self-loathing and needing attention, but yet fearing to show yourself to others. Good morning, Randolph. I am Anita DeFrancesco, Coaching Club Cafe Live, Anita D. I'm founder of Tantra Wisdom. Today, my theme is Discover Joyous Love, but today my topic is shame and toxic shame and how we can deal with allowing ourselves to understand this emotion, because most people don't think it's an emotion and it lives in the subconscious body. What I can do, we're having a special this week, $2.99 a minute for the phone calls, is that I can at least listen to you, guide you, direct you, and give you a sense of allowing yourself to come out from the issues that you may be experiencing, of self-judgment or just challenges in your life. Anger is one of the main causes of shame. So that's a hiding also. And having an anger discharging type personality, walking around and always, anger about this, hate about that, anger about this. This is the kind of personality that says, I have shame and I'm hiding it through my rage. I'm hijacking my emotions and hiding it through my rage. It's these people I want to run away from, because I don't want to pick up their toxicity, nor do I want to be transferred upon as a vulnerable, open human being. But I understand it and I see it because I'm a therapist. And but here are some, and it can hide in your unconscious. And people that have shame are actually they're so intelligent, some of them, that this hiding becomes, they're so unaware that they have the shame that they can go beyond it in a sense that, so this is what we want to deal with. Here are some characteristics of shame. When we experience shame, it lasts much longer. The feelings and pain associated with shame are of greater intensity. An external event isn't required to trigger it. Our own thoughts can bring on feelings of shame. So if you're at an event or something, or, and there's something that may trigger your emotions, it's really not anything. It's yourself that brings on the feelings of shame. It is all about the self with shame. Now, if it's just anger that you have, sure, you can be triggered by anything with anger. But if you have a lot of anger and you're explosive and you're displacing your anger onto children or seniors or people that just don't deserve your rage, you're really full of shame, and you need to sit down and deal with it. Go to therapy, actually. Okay, good morning, everyone. You're listening to Coaching Club Cafe Live. It is Monday morning, and I'm broadcasting to you live from Philadelphia. I'm Anita DeFrancesco. I'm the author of 2 books, and I have Live Free and the Donna Gentili Story, and these are books that revolve all around the topic of shame, about my own life, about someone else's life, and these are the things that have helped me grow. Writing books, reading, getting therapy. Okay, anyone have any questions or comments or anything that they would like to share? Maybe share something about yourself that you're experiencing. Shame-based beliefs. I always say shame in hiding. When someone judges me, I say, oh, they have shame in hiding. Why are they judging me? And I have neighbors like that. They look at me and I don't know what they're looking at. I mean, I'm not Lady Gaga, but maybe I am. So I go, oh, my paparazzi's out there, and they look at me and then I go, oh, they're in shame and hiding because today I have a different outfit on, or my hair is a different do, or I have a different hat on. And people look at people and that is a projection onto dismissing my openness, my freedom. And when people dismiss your freedom and put that lid on you for 1 second, they are in shame. And they are taking away something that you've worked on, or your power. So look out for your people around you, your people you work with, your beloveds, if they're constantly dismissing you or looking at you, judging you, what are you wearing that today for? Or, why is your hair do that way? Or how come you're wearing a green hat and we're all wearing red hats? And so it's that kind of thing that they are projecting that they wish they could be like you. They wish they could open up to their power. So be careful of those who take away and dismiss you. I'm a failure is another internalized statement that a person with toxic shame would say. I'm a failure, even if they're not. I'm a bad person. I'm a fraud or a phony. That is a common line that a person in toxic shame would say. I'm a fraud or a phony. Admitting to that. Hi, Randolph. How would you explain the difference between shame and guilt? You're giving me a tough question. I could name somebody I know that has shame and guilt. I won't go there, though. Anyway, when you have shame, say you do something. Okay, let's for example, let me see. I had an example written down here if I can find it. Let me get to that question in a moment, Randolph. So another thing about shame is I'm selfish. That would be an internalized statement that you may find yourself saying. Or I'm not enough. This belief can be applied to numerous areas. I'm not enough. I hate myself. Are you the type of person that says that statement? How can you say that to your beautiful soul, to your beautiful being, that you hate yourself? You may not like some of the things that you do, or some of the things that you have, or the things that you, where you live. There might be things like that you don't like, but to hate yourself is a very profound, powerful statement that is very debilitating and is very shame-based. I don't matter is another statement. I'm defective or inadequate. Good morning, Catherine. Coping methods and shielding from an individual like this. I shouldn't have been born. I shouldn't have been born. Now, that was a statement that I think my mother used to say, or I shouldn't have been born, or she shouldn't have been born. And these were toxic shame statements that just, came out of nowhere. And how does a child deal with a statement like that? So, so dealing with shame and guilt. If you do something, say you hurt someone, or something happens to someone as a result of your actions, but it wasn't something that you did, but as a result of your actions, and then you start to feel bad about that. So you start to feel guilty. You live with that guilt. And that's remorse and guilt, because you feel somewhere inside that you may have caused hurt to someone else, or even death to someone, or set their whole life up to be completely in the wrong direction. Or maybe somebody came to you and they had the talents for a job, and because of who they were, you didn't give them that job, and they went off the deep end in life. And now you look back and say, if I only would have gave that person the job or helped that person, I wouldn't have this guilt, because look at where they are now. It's like an old statement. I heard someone say they wanted to adopt some children way back in the day, but they didn't think it was the thing to do. Today, it's normal to adopt children in other countries, and it's a real regular thing now. But I knew someone that wanted to adopt children and had the finances to do it, but didn't really have the know-how or the acceptance, like it wasn't a thing acceptable in society to adopt other kids. And those kids ended up going on drugs and having a terrible life and ended up dying. And that person lived in guilt his whole life, saying, I wish I would have adopted them. Today I would have, because we're in a different time now. And that, back then, it was shameful to not have just your own children. So these are things, Randolph, that people can live with the rest of their life. And it's blaming the self. I'm wrong. And criticizing. And that can turn into a lot more internalized shame. I hope I answered your question, Randolph. Catherine, coping methods. Okay, coping methods and shielding from an individual like this. Right. Boundaries, Catherine Joy. So, I have boundaries around a lot of people that are self-loathing, that have shame, that are constantly wanting to project. And they know the moment I'm coming, I put the brakes on. There's no projecting your negative onto me or displacing your anger onto me. And then I feel it in my diaphragm area, which is my power chakra. And that is the part of me that feels like somebody took a little bit of me, of my self-worth, and they get what they call a false ego power, which can be narcissistic, which can be, a lot of them live in these self-denial. They have a denial type personality, and they're constantly dismissing and moving things away so that they can come through, so to speak, through the ego. But it's not real. And they're living in so much pain. And it's hard to help them if you don't know what to do. So shielding yourself is taking a step back. And don't expose yourself to these kind of people. Go with people that celebrate your life, not that tolerate your life. And the people that are in toxic shame and narcissistic are only going to tolerate you because they cannot tolerate themselves. And I walk away from these people. If I have to deal with them, like sometimes I have some family members that are this way, I have to put on not a shield, because I dare not block my beautiful, blissful self that I've worked so hard to become. But what I do is have a boundary. I limit my conversations, my interactions with these people. This is what I hope that helps you, Catherine. And working on yourself. If you're constantly exposed to these type of people, that means there's something in you that really needs attention. Because sometimes we look to them because maybe that's something we are. And it's helping us forget ourselves again. Toxic shame. Shame fuels the anger, inward or outward directed. Anger, avoidance, sociopathic, judging the self, failing to live up to the standard. So if you, again, growing up in a society where religious stuff was a very big thing, or sexuality or whatever, living up to the society's standards can have an effect on you becoming and living who you are. So these are some of the things. But again, toxic shame, isolation, hiding. I suggest for Halloween, people that have shame is to wear a mask that looks exactly like them. Have one designed, and that might be a start. Or there's these classes that I used to go to where we did we would put a mask on our face and make it with some kind of clay or something, cast type stuff that they use for, if you have a broken bone. And we would put this on our face and make our face, and we'd have to look at our shame. And this is another way of healing these type of things. And I'll tell you, they were just such profound healing classes that I've taken over the years, that the impact of shame is profound. Again, so let me see what else I have. I'm looking for questions. You're welcome, Catherine. You're welcome, Randolph. Let me see what else I have for you that I want to share before. It definitely comes from the childhood and the transference. So parents can unintentionally transfer their shame onto their children through verbal messages or nonverbal behavior. For example, a child might feel unloved in reaction to a parent's depression. So if a parent has depression or indifference or irritableness going on, I know we try to hide that from the child and, at times, but if you're constantly living that in your body, then your child is going to be exposed to this and transferred upon. And this is not good transference. It takes forever to get that transference out of your body, and you have to work on yourselves. Eating disorder people, I'd like you this week to take a look at that for a moment and just maybe look at it and see, why are you having this eating disorder? Or maybe you don't know it's an eating disorder, but now that you know about shame, you could perhaps be enlightened, enriched here into, and gravitate towards some type of healing in your life. I'm here, Anita DeFrancesco, Anita D Coaching Club Cafe Live, $2.99 a minute this week. I'm the founder of Tantra Wisdom, and I'm author of 2 books, Live Free and The Donna Gentili Story. And both books were written based around shame, toxic shame, toxicity. They're both available on Amazon. And go to my website, or just go look me up on the Coaching Club Cafe Live. So let's see. I don't know if I have anything more for you all today. I'd like you to, give a call. And some people develop what we call a sensitivity to shame. So they're very sensitive about it. Developing a heightened vulnerability to experience shame most often occurs in the early years. We're plagued by the father's facial expression. Here's an example. Randolph or Catherine. Some children may experience shame in response to interactions and express disgust. For example, there was a case here, which I'm going to read to you. A little boy was plagued by his father's facial expression when the father saw the 6-year-old had wet the bed and called in all the other siblings to look at this, look what your brother did. This kid grew up with shame because, first of all, parents shouldn't do that. It's like bullying. It's like making fun. It's ridicule. Ridicule is such a killer. It is so shame-based. Ridicule is one thing that I will despise anyone that ridicules me or anyone around me. It is the most painful and debilitating sense of hate. Now, so the father called in the brothers and sisters, and this kid grew up. I don't know what he grew up, and I know he probably grew up with shame. Anyhow, so I just want to say that thank you all for tuning in. I am Anita DeFrancesco, Anita D, on the Coaching Club Cafe Live, and I'm also the founder of Tantra Wisdom. You can search me on Facebook here. Please call in. We're having a special this week. I'm going to be featured here on the Coaching Club Cafe Live. It's $2.99 a minute, and that is a bargain. And if you'd like some input into, finding some direction to self-love and understanding what shame is about and love, I'd be more than glad to help you. It is my pleasure. And let's right now, just coming into our body, bringing your hands onto your chest, onto your heart for a moment, taking in that deep breath and just breathing in some love and allowing me to transfer some love to you today. And again, one more breath. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful Monday.